Tommy Rooney is with us because of the class Seán Boylan documentary that aired last night. Now, Adrian, I didn't see this. Oh, Tommy, you are with us. Tommy, kick us off here. How good was the Seán Boylan documentary? I must catch up with it this weekend.
Lads, any Seán Boylan content on a Thursday evening is good. It was absolutely class. It was just, there was just lovely stories, great quotes. There was the
What was that quote,
beautiful
Tommy?
mix.
Give us that quote. Give us that quote that you tweeted last night.
The quote. It's top of the show. Give me a second. I don't want to butcher this now. It was, he was telling the story about
being yourself. That's the one.
Being yourself and not being afraid to be someone else. Just give me 1 second to tell you this. I actually should have had the image on screen because it's nearly his face that makes it when he's telling it. So it's in life, you may not be able to do things as good as other people, but don't be afraid of being as good as other people. Just be yourself and be as good as you can. Now, when Seán Boylan tells you that, you believe it. You just say to yourself, let's not worry about living up to other people's expectations. Let's just do what we can. And look, the one thing about Boylan is, and I'm not going to say he's a contradiction, but we kind of spoke about it a few months ago. He's such a nice man. He's such an endearing man. When he tells you stories, he draws you in. But there's a ferociousness about him too. And I'm actually not sure that ferociousness came out last night. And I think that's actually a good thing because I think for a long time, Seán Boylan and that Meath team, they were tarred and they were sullied with the brush of being dirty and causing controversy. But
sullied.
Boylan is Boylan's somebody who's helped a lot of people around the country. Like Conor Labadie's a footballer from Down, and I knew that Conor and Seán were friends, but I wasn't sure how. And Conor tweeted last night that before a club championship match, everyone told him he was injured, he wasn't going to make it, no chance. And ring Seán Boylan. Seán Boylan looked after him, gets him ready for this club championship match, and he plays. Kieran Donaghy's travelled down to Seán Boylan on the morning of All Ireland finals. Like who else in the country are you doing that to on the morning of an All Ireland final? There's a magic about Seán Boylan. I think that's shown through last night, and there was an innocence. It's nearly an innocence. Is it an innocence? At times, it was nearly like he seemed surprised that he got married. He was surprised. It was a really touching moment towards the end where he spoke about his dad. And if you can learn more about his dad, lads, go do that, because I know there's a brilliant documentary about it as well. And the role that he played in the Civil War in Ireland, and his role as, I suppose, a leader of men back in the 1920s. Like, he was a good friend of Michael Collins, and you love a documentary on Boylan's relationship with his dad, but at the end he's like, he didn't realise how much his dad cared about him. Like, and I don't know.
It was a tear in his eye. The more I hear about that Meath team and the more I hear about Seán Boylan, like, it's I don't know, look from the outside in, as a kid, there was a point, I was thinking about it last night, there was a point in my childhood when I loved that Meath team and that sort of squared up jersey and all that. It was absolutely class, and the swagger about them. And then there was a point soon after that, maybe it's a consequence of my own geography, that I began to hate them. But I always, before I got to know what it was that made Seán Boylan tick, assumed that he was a mirror image of that team. And by all accounts, like, listen to the lads last night, Seán Boylan never told us to go out and pull a dirty stroke or to sort of get involved in the punch-up. Like, the divergence between the team and the manager seems, the more you hear and see about it, seems enormous.
Okay, that's why I kind of mentioned the contradiction earlier, Adrian. I think it's true. That's shown true last night. But there's like, Bernie Flynn has told stories of Bernie Flynn got in a row with Andy McEntee at training in the early 90s, and two boys flaking each other in training. And one of the first things Colin O'Rourke said at the start of the documentary, and it's something I've heard before, was that the first thing Seán Boylan did to get right was to get the players to stop hating each other in terms of club football. They actually came together on a Sunday. They could kick how many colours of shukra out of each other, and then on a Tuesday they were in and they represented Meath and they played together. But I actually think that he brought a respect to the players amongst themselves, and then they were able to go out and train, and the same way that Kilkenny do it, they went as hard as they could in training. And there's a story that Bernie Flynn has told before, that himself and Andy McEntee got into a bit of a scrap during training, and it went too far. McEntee gave him a dunt, Flynn hit him back, there was a load of people at training watching it, and Boylan comes in and breaks up the fight. The lads don't listen. So Boylan comes in and sends the lads down to the corner like two young gossans, go do laps of the field. The lads thought that was a bit embarrassing. So the boys go off doing the laps of the field, and next thing start getting into proper scrap on the side of the field. Seán Boylan stops training, runs the length of it, squares up to the two boys. Now Flynn mightn't be that much bigger than him, but Andy McEntee probably bigger than Seán Boylan. And Boylan puts up the fist and says, "Lads, if you're going to do it, I'll go at you here now and I'll take the two of you on." So there was a ferocity about Seán Boylan. He may not have told the lads to go out and smash the other team, but there was no quarter given, and you were told that in no uncertain terms that there was a hardiness about Meath. As the way O'Rourke said, you don't lie down. If you're not hurt, you don't lie down. You don't show weakness, like. So.
But that's a different thing than boxing the head off people. That's my point. That there's the team. It actually reflects the team that they were taking pride. I can't remember exactly who it was. I know it definitely wasn't Mick Lyons because he was very much the star turn last night, who for a solid hour sat there and said absolutely nothing.
That's
but
the beauty of Mick Lyons.
It might have been Beggy. One of them turned to the other and was like, it was almost sort of reflecting on himself, sort of saying that, well, he never told us to do anything, i.e. we were just a dirty shower ourselves.
Adrian,
yeah, like I don't know if the Meath were just dirty, Adrian. Like football was just like that. Like if you look back at that Cork All-Ireland,
listen, do you know? I tell you something. I thought they were going to. I actually thought they were going to not reference it at all last night. With about 15 minutes to go, there was no mention of it, and I was like, lads, let's not be brushing history here. And then suddenly they went on into a montage of Meath's best wrestling moments.
The music. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I found it hard to sleep after that, lads.
Adrian, I want to hear more about your dislike for Meath as a young Westmeath boy.
I just hated them, and like they're easy to hate when they go around with the sleeves shorn off on and the collars up, and I fully appreciated, by the way, that you know the England-Ireland rivalry that they don't really get very much, or the Australia-New Zealand rivalry that Australia don't really care about, or Canada-America that America don't really care about. Well, that's the Westmeath thing. Meath we wouldn't have been a dot on their shoe on, and they wouldn't have had a clue. But like we hated them and we couldn't beat them. And Desi stood in front like 5 yards out from the goal to knock over a point to beat them in the early 2000s, and that never happened. But it made it out obviously a few years later. But yeah, no, I definitely as a kid definitely thought and admired and sort of liked the cut of their jib, and that a lot of those that team, Brian Stafford, like what a footballer.
That's not true last night. Stafford and O'Rourke, how good they were really on the football pitch as well.
How long are Westmeath going to continue to go on about this Leinster quarter-final that they beat Meath in? Like that's what, or was it a semi-final? Semi-final. Sorry, it was in Croke Park, so it was a semi-final.
Oh, listen, I'll be honest. I'm sorry, I've made this point before. Like that day is right up there for me with 2004.
It was one of the most obscene Gaelic football matches I ever experienced in my life. And I have family in Westmeath, and I would have taken great joy after Desi Dolan missed that free in about a decade of rubbing it in their faces. But like, I don't know if Westmeath are ever going to let that go, and I wouldn't let it go either. Sure, Meath are still talking about 91 against Dublin.
So, Westmeath, a dot on your shoe, Tommy, would you go along with that?
Not necessarily. I've always enjoyed the rivalry with Westmeath. I think that
playing the politics now.
Well, for the last decade, they've been better than Meath, like.
Here, the thing, the quadruple of games against Dublin, I either had totally forgotten or was just never aware that they went off on the piss to Scotland
the weekend before.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this one. It's worth watching for this alone. It's like after the third game, Boylan turns around and he says, "Okay, I want to bring you away, lads." So he goes to all the wives and girlfriends and he says, "Can I bring the lads away?" And they said, anything to beat the Dubs, Shawnee. So it turns out that he actually organised a trip for all the families to go, and they all go to Scotland on the rip. And there's photos. I think it's Seán Boylan playing, what's the instrument called? He referenced it, the mouth organ. Yeah. So he's down, like it's early in the morning, and they trained the next day on the Friday, and they trained on the Saturday. They went out on the Friday and trained the Saturday, Sunday. They come back and they met Dublin. But apparently that weekend
this was before the third game. They go on
before the fourth game. Yeah, but what I would love to dig out is radio archives that weekend in Ireland. Apparently, all the radio stations had sports psychologists on, or psychologists saying that this was crazy, and that all the tension of the previous three games was going to leave the Meath lads, and they wouldn't be able to get themselves up for the Dublin game a week later. Wasn't true.
That's remarkable.
Seán Boylan knew.
And
well, look, it looks like genius now. I would say it looks like genius now because they won. Like, the winners write history, Tommy.
No, it's an absolute scientific fact. Go on the lash the week before a big game and you will win. It's as simple as that. So where does this rank? Was it better than The Last Dance in your view, Tommy?
Where does it rank?
The great sports documentaries you've seen recently.
It left me. Do you know what? It left me wanting more Seán Boylan, which is probably a good thing. Wouldn't you say it's a good thing? I'd say that it's very good. It's very enjoyable. It's a lovely hour of television, but Jesus, I wanted more. Like I wanted an hour on his dad. I wanted an hour on beating the Dubs. Really... I wanted an hour on rubbing it in Mayo and Cork's faces. Just give us 4 hours of Seán Boylan.
I'd have taken an hour of chat of Seán Boylan, because it was like
just Seán talking.
Sort of documentary about Seán Boylan that he kind of featured in sporadically, that I don't think actually really captured his true essence either. You know, from the interviews we've had him in over the last couple of years, particularly, like he's such a fascinating, interesting speaker. It doesn't lend itself to a documentary like that, where it's mostly other people paying tribute to him. So I'd take more of just him.
Yeah. There was one Friday, Adrian, a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember this, Owen, but we dragged Seán up the road. It was just for a chat some Friday evening, and I think we meant to kick off at 7. And we wanted to wrap at 8. I think he was a bit late, but I think we went beyond. I think after 9 o'clock, once we went off air, we recorded even more. It was about 2 hours of Seán Boylan just telling stories. He's got this amazing stream of speaking. It's not like a stream of consciousness. It's just constant stories and anecdotes. It's just a wonderful man to listen to. And absolutely, give us a 9-part series of Seán Boylan.
I know what Owen's next question is going to be, and the answer is Steve Kerr. Seán Boylan is Steve Kerr.
It's a good comparison. I like
Phil
that.
Jackson.
I like that. Or it's probably a kind of a mixture of both, really.
Yeah, that's fair.
On a play, I'm sure both of those aspired to be Seán Boylan when they were going through their relative coaching careers.